it's wonderful when you can figure out together, all right, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. How can we work together to, embrace our strengths and weaknesses together? Not every couple can do that. And sometimes a great couple runs into a problem just doing it together and needs some help figuring out, how do we get back on track with our relationship?
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Building a private practice can be challenging. I know for me, when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to manage paperwork. I knew nothing about insurance billing. The whole process was really daunting. Building a private practice can be challenging, to say the least. I remember when I was starting out, I had no idea how to get referrals. I had no idea how to navigate insurance. I had no idea even what paperwork was required. So growing a caseload, navigating insurance, and managing billing and paperwork all take significant amounts of time. And that's all in addition to delivering great care to your clients. That's why Alma gives clinicians the tools they need to build a thriving private practice. When you join their insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. So in addition to their insurance program, Alma also offers time-saving tools and administrative support, so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great care to your clients and traveling the world. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's hello, ALMA.com/KYM to get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. As some of you might have noticed in episodes recently, I've been branching out a little bit. I've been going outside of the therapist guest scene and bringing in other travel experts to help us on our journey. And I'm really excited today. We've got Heather Markel. She's here with us. She is a travel coach, which is sort of a new term for me. So I'm super excited to introduce her to you guys and have her tell you what a travel coach does and talk about some tips and tricks she has about just traveling full time, if that's what you want to do. And I know a lot of us traveling therapists do want to do that. So Heather, welcome. Please tell the audience about yourself and what you do. And let's get into this.
Sure. Thank you. It's great to be here. And so I am doing what I teach. So I quit my corporate job of over 25 years in 2017, thinking I was going to take a career break for about 6 months, travel the world, and then go back to real life. And I'm now in year 6 of full-time travel myself. Wow. And so it was not a stretch for me to become a full-time travel coach. So I am a certified professional coach as well. So I've been trained as a coach and also bring my knowledge of the travel industry. And also I've got years of business coaching experience. To your question about what is it that I do and what is travel coaching, from what I understand, so I call myself a full-time travel coach. Not that I am doing it full-time, but also as a full-time travel coach, I am working with people on a transition to a lifestyle, as opposed to a classic travel coach, who I understand is sort of an evolved travel agent, meaning they will book your travel and also bring experience. It's not just, oh, you want to go from Paris to Istanbul and you want hotels? No, it's a travel coach might be able to say, oh, you want to go to Istanbul for a week and you'd like to meditate and do yoga. Let me see if I can find those experiences for you and build that trip for you. Nice. Whereas I'm very much like, oh, you want to change your life, you're working at a desk or you're working from your home and you want to live nomadically, but it's a big change. And what are you going to do? Are you
Yeah.
going to keep your home? Are you going to give it up? What do you do with your stuff? How are you going to afford it? Mentally, like, oh my God, how do you even live like this? It's very much for me, I call it mindset, money, mastery. So it's very much those three areas that I'm helping my clients address so they can comfortably transition. And
Mhm.
what's really cool, when I started doing this in 2018, I was considered crazy, right? It was before
Right.
the pandemic, before the Great Resignation. I was not a spring chicken. And what am I doing at this age? Quitting my like corporate reliable income job to do what? Now, right? Since then, it's become more of a trend and more people are embracing the nomadic lifestyle. I did a TEDx talk on the benefits of
Oh,
living
wow.
nomadically. And so now I'm starting to get clients who actually have been at it for a couple of years and are starting to have the classic challenges because, as we were talking about earlier, from the outside, the full-time travel lifestyle looks amazing. Everyone thinks we're just on a permanent vacation or
Yeah.
retired, and that's just not the case at all. And there is a very specific group of challenges that comes along with this lifestyle. And sometimes people hit a wall, and I'm helping them now to kind of overcome that wall and so that they can continue traveling happily. Or if it's time for them to go and do something else, then I can help them figure out what that something else is.
That's so interesting. I want to talk about all of this, but that wall that you're talking about is really interesting because my boyfriend and I, we've been doing this for about a year and a half now. We live in Airbnbs. We just go from place to place. But I'm curious about that. What wall do you see people hit after they've been nomads for a while? And I'm just really curious because maybe we're not there yet, but we're in the place where we're like, how will we ever not go from place to place? Because we start to get bored now in places. We're like, all right,
Yeah.
been there, done that. We've seen it. Next place, and it's like, how would we ever like transition back to settling down if we felt like we needed to? So I'm just really interested about that concept that you
So
see.
one big thing is loneliness and community. So
Mm,
whether you're a solo traveler or in a couple, it doesn't matter because you might feel like, wow, I'm going from place to place. And as you know, if you're traveling internationally, especially, you have restriction on how long you can stay unless you get a
yeah.
digital nomad visa. So now you move, you live somewhere for a few months. Well, you have to start all over. You got to make new friends and figure out where the supermarket is. And and then just as you get it going, it's time to go and you start over
Yep.
again and you leave
Yeah.
behind one community and now you again don't have a community and it can get fatiguing.
Mm,
So that's one big thing. The other thing is if you're working while you travel or maybe you started by not doing so much work and you picked up some work and now
hmm.
you're at that kind of classic life wellness kind of thing. Like, well, how do I balance getting my work done and also feel like I'm taking advantage of the place that's around me,
Hmm.
and not feel like I'm in front of my computer all day and I just want to throw it against the wall. So those are a couple of the challenges, but there's many more.
Yeah. Oh, I could totally see that. And in my case, I work too much. So I find myself, in places like we're in a place right now, and I'm like, I really haven't done anything because my schedule's been so packed right now. So trying to find even that balance for me, like I get to go to all these cool places, but then I just keep piling on the work. So trying to find that balance. I'm sure you probably run into that
Exactly.
with people too. I'm trying to help them
Yes.
manage that, like let go of some stuff.
And it could be many things. It could be about letting go, but sometimes you might actually be reaching a point where you need a change and you're not enjoying the work and it's actually
Hmm.
detracting from your experience, but you need the work. So then what do you do? Right. So that could be
So
a
interesting.
concern.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I could just talk about this stuff forever. Okay.
Me
Yeah. So
too.
people, yeah. So do you see that there's like kind of a sweet spot when people start to hit this wall, or is it just individualized for different people with different situations?
So my experience so far is at the 2 week mark, especially if you're traveling
Oh,
solo, that's the first
interesting.
wall.
Mm.
Especially if you're coming from a traditional corporate environment and going into this lifestyle. That's about when you realize, oh my God, I'm not on vacation. What am I doing? um,
Yeah.
and it hits you because, like the honeymoon period, it's like, oh, and then you're like, oh my God, I've been here 2 weeks. I think I've seen everything there is to see. What do I do now? Right. And so
Yeah.
the first year is I find a lot of people tend to rush because it's like, oh my God, all
Mm.
right, 3 days here. I certainly did that. 3 days in each place,
Yeah.
run around, and guess what happens?
Yeah.
Burnout.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
I think it was 2019, I suddenly found myself in Argentina staying at this hotel. I was like, you know what? I need a break from these like dive hotels. And I need and it was, $20 a night for like a
Oh,
luxury
wow.
hotel. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to stay here for a week. Well, that week ended up being 2 or 3 weeks because I suddenly
Mm.
realized I'm tired of packing up my bag and putting it on a bus and taking an 18-hour bus to the next place. Like I've had it. I need to just
Yes.
sit and chill. So some of the first year stuff is around finding your specific way to travel because it's
Yeah.
not vacation travel at all. And it's a lot going on cerebrally with the experience. And
Mm.
also, I found the first year very profound personally. I don't know in a couple if it's as profound, but it was like a vision quest. I mean, I
Wow.
was constantly confronted with situations and people that
Yeah.
reminded me of, oh, there's another issue I need to deal with, another personal growth thing. And it after a while, it got really kind of infuriating.
Oh,
And you have
yeah.
this choice, right? The thing is, when you're traveling full time, what happens is you realize your life is 100% yours. Like you made your life, right? And I didn't get that, right? So I'm sitting here, in Portugal, and I'm like, what am I doing? Oh my God, this is happening again, and this situation again. Why is this happening again? Why does this always happen to me? And
Mm.
I chose to go into that as a coach. And I had the tools to go into it, to read about the specific things coming up and to really, really go into them because, the way out is the way through.
Yeah,
So I did that, but
absolutely.
that can be really hard,
It can.
and also as a solo traveler, I have to do all my trip planning myself. There's nobody to
Right.
share. And that if you're traveling with someone that's probably, hopefully, one of you handles like logistics, one of you books the Airbnb, one of you gets the train or the plane or the bus tickets, you get to share that. As a solo traveler, it's all me.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, there's been a lot of challenges that come up, just relationship dynamics, that I
That
think just
too.
normal couples don't maybe deal with as much. Like every place we go is new, and I suck at reading maps, and he's great at reading maps. And
Yeah.
we figured out, for example, he has to have the map, because if I have the map and I'm trying to guide him, it's like a fight every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, and these patterns do keep coming up, and they're really exemplified when you're trying to travel with somebody and you're moving every couple of weeks to a new place. It can be tough. And I hear you too with the solo travel. It's like you're probably having to learn these nuances of every place you stay, like what to look for, what not to look for, and like what really works for you. And it's a process. Even with us, with like each Airbnb, we're slowly learning, oh, look at the pictures more closely. We have to have
Yes.
2 bathrooms, because we just do, we're just
Yeah.
learning all this stuff. And it's a constant evolution of like challenging our relationship skills. And for a solo traveler, probably meeting new people and how to navigate all that
Yes.
stuff all by yourself. Yeah. Wow.
Well, and I agree, like as the couple, especially with the pandemic, right? I've seen the
Yeah.
couples that learn to partner really, really well and they spend every moment together and they're just great. And then other couples who just fight all the time. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, like that lifestyle, it's wonderful when you can figure out together, all right, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. How can we work together to, embrace our strengths and weaknesses together? Not every couple can do that. And sometimes a great couple runs into a problem just doing it together and needs some help figuring out, like, how do we get back on track with our relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you must run into that in this coaching capacity, because before we hit record, you were sharing that you're also a certified life coach. So you probably have tons of tools, yes, I would think, to help your travel coach clients work with that stuff too, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice because specifically one of my newer clients, it was nice. We had the conversation because it's a couple, they had tried to hire a therapist. And when they explained their lifestyle and what they were after, of course, that therapist, who's a traditional state, just work in one place, have a normal traditional life therapist, had no understanding of their lifestyle or what was happening. And so I bring that wisdom. So I completely get it. I'm like, I get what you're doing. I get where you found joy. I get the wall that you're at, and I totally can see you succeeding. So let me help you get there.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. I mean, I think I do, like you're saying, have the advantage to have these tools as a therapist to realize, like, okay, our communication style on this particular topic's not working well. We need to back up and figure out how to manage this more effectively. But I think a lot of couples that don't have that background might really struggle with that stuff, have a hard time with that, the nomadic lifestyle. Yeah. So let's see, what else should we talk about around this? I'm curious, maybe what are a couple of the major things you see that people come to you with roadblocks that you can maybe help jumpstart if they're like afraid to take that leap into a full-time nomadic lifestyle?
Yeah. So the biggest block, so like moving from the ones that are, already in the lifestyle to the people that are sitting here watching us being like, oh my God, I want your life. One of the biggest hurdles, the first thing everybody says is, how will I afford it? So I actually wrote an ebook called How to Afford Full-Time Travel. And it's there's a specific set of formulas in it to help you understand, like, this is how much I'm earning. I give some help understanding what it costs per month to live like this, and at a high level, right? Because there's a lot of nuances to figuring out your monthly costs. But specifically, I do something called a travel style, because I know the worst thing you can do is be in your corporate job, be like, I'm going to do this. Cool. I'm out. See ya. And then you go and you're either out of money in 6 months, or you didn't think it through and you realize all you can afford is to be in a youth hostel with 16 other people and, share a room, and that's not what you want. And then you're just miserable.
Going in network with insurance can be tough. For example, waiting a year to get credentialed in some cases. Filing all of the right paperwork is time-consuming and tedious, and even after you're done, it can take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join the insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork, from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure, regardless of where you're working from. This is particularly exciting for me as a traveling therapist, as I know it is probably for you too. You can literally be anywhere and still see your clients through Alma. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started.
So I like to take people through, a specific process so that they're honest with their expectations, so that when they build their travel budget, it's realistic and it meets their expectations. And part of that also helps determine how long they can travel. And if, depending if they're going with a job or without a job. So these are really important financial things to discover. But before that, as you know, I think any coach will say, no matter what we're coaching on, mindset comes first. And I've worked with business clients. I once had a client come to me who said, I need a marketing plan. I need you to give me a marketing plan because I was making six figures and now I'm kind of going below six figures. Clearly my marketing is off. Fix it. Help me fix it. And I spoke to her and I'm like, I could give you a marketing plan. I will give you a marketing plan. The problem is, like, you've got this mental thing going on here that's completely in your way. And any marketing plan you get from me or any other provider, you're not going to implement, or you're not going to implement well, because this thing is so in your way. And so
Yes.
It's the same thing. I can give you all these money plans, but if behind that you have all these fears like, well, what about my future? Am I ruining my retirement? How am I going to stay in touch with family and friends? What do I do with my stuff? Like, there's all these mindset things that are, to me, before the money, because you got to get those fears addressed before you are open to hearing how you can do this. And because it's not
right.
It's not intuitive. I mean, it took me years to come up with, oh, I've been living my life by revolving travel around work. So work's at the center and I travel around my work. And then I'm like, oh, what if I flip that? And I put travel in the middle and I revolve work around the travel. And then it blew my mind. And then it was like, got it, right? And I think more and more people are seeing things that way. And the nomad lifestyle is more and more a thing. And so a lot of the fears of, am I crazy? Like, is anyone else out there doing this? Like, that part has naturally now been addressed, which is nice. But I still think it's really important to address those mental barriers before you jump into the financial ones.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so important. Yeah, because you can give a lot of practical solutions, I'm sure, but if your mindset's not in the right place, if you're too afraid to actually take the leap, you're not gonna do it. Or you're probably gonna fail in some capacity and just be like, it's not for me, Yeah.
It took me years to have the faith to quit. And it really was though the catalyst for me was unfortunately pain, it at least brought me to this point where, I realized my head and my heart are constantly fighting. Like, my heart, it's very clear. My heart wants to try this thing where it just goes out in the world. We go out in the world, we meet people, we travel. And my head is like, what? How are you going to pay your rent? How are you going to eat? What about health insurance? And that went on for years until I realized from the pain, I'm like, I'm doing this. It's happening. And then all of a sudden, the voices in my head, when my heart's like, okay, so I want to go and travel. I know, head, you're gonna say we shouldn't. And we might not make enough money. And then then this voice that came in was, what if you make more money than you ever dreamed? Because you do this, right? And it's like, who said that? Like, this is that voice started, and that's what grew over the course of the year that I committed to traveling to quit my job to travel and then actually did it.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, because for me, the mindset shift has had to be basically, I'm just going to take a couple of steps forward and then trust that it's going to unfold okay. That's been the big thing for me. And stepping out of that, I have to have it all planned out. I have to know where I'm going to put my stuff and exactly how the mail situation is going to work and the business registration and all that stuff. I feel like if I had really waited to get all that in place, I might not have ever gone because it was so daunting, but now it's that old analogy. It's like you're driving in the dark across the country. If you just follow your headlights, you will get there. You can't maybe see the whole path, but that's how it's worked for me anyway. Shifting that mindset to say, I've got to take just these baby steps and just keep moving forward and just trust the rest is going to unfold and it's going to be okay. And nothing's irreversible, like I can quit this at any time, really, if I want to. Yeah.
And I think what you just said is very important. I do think there is a leap of faith and you have to at some point trust. And you
Mhm.
have to be okay with not knowing all the answers. And for me, when I started, it was another one. I'm like, I need to know everything, because corporate, I've got a week's vacation. So you bet I've got all the flights, all the hotels, all the activities, all the restaurants booked. So when I
Yeah.
arrive, I'm done. I'm just going to relax because I got my spa treatment at 3. I've got dinner at 6. So now I'm like, what am I doing? I've landed in Costa Rica, and I'm doing what and how am I getting from, so that was also, for me, that 2-week mark that I talked about earlier. I had, before I left for my first foray into this life, I had booked Costa Rica, and I don't even know what happened. It was like head down, and all of a sudden I had booked the first 2 weeks of vacations, shuttle transfers, hotels, all this stuff. And then I was like, Heather, if you wanted to experience go with the flow travel, this ain't gonna work. Like, you need to stop planning. So at the last night, I'm like, at this place, the universe conspires perfectly.
Yes.
And I'm in Corcovado National Park, staying in a tent on the beach with giant cockroaches, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh my gosh.
And there's really crappy Wi-Fi, like really bad. Like this that we have here is luxury compared to. And so, and I'm trying to I had met this lovely couple on one of my bus rides earlier that week. And I was trying to figure out, like, I'm in Corcovado National Park down at the bottom. They're in Samsara, another place in Costa Rica. Actually, sorry, I did it again. It's Samara. I kept calling it Samsara, and I talk in my TED Talk. It's a whole actual spiritual crazy thing that happened, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
So I was trying to get to Samara to meet them, and I couldn't figure it out. It looked like either a dangerous overnight bus ride or a really expensive flight. And the manager at this property was awful. I think he hated his job and, was just tuned out. So there I am. And I'm like, I lost it. I was like, if I can't figure out how to meet 2 friends in a freaking city in the same country I'm at, how on earth am I thinking I'm going to live this life? And I cried, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go back to New York. I'm going to ask for my job back. I tried, I failed. And, and then after I finished crying, I again, this voice comes in my head that says, Heather, instead of trying so hard to get where you can't go, why don't you just figure out where you can go? And I was like, oh, and that was so much easier. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, there's a boat here and a bus there, and in 2 hours I can, and that put me right back on the path. And that was, and it was great because there's always somewhere you can go.
I love that.
And so, focus on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. And just hearing you tell that story, it's like gut wrenching in a way, because I can think of a million times where I've been right in that situation. It's like, what am I doing? Am I crazy? This is just like, I'm in the middle of somewhere. My car's breaking down. I have to get it towed to this dealership somewhere. It just feels really overwhelming. But then you're right. I mean, you just take a minute and just be like, it's okay. I mean, it's literally all going to work out, and just do the next right thing or whatever, the next thing that's going to get you to the next place, and you'll be okay, but I could just relate to that so much, that moment where it's like, oh my gosh, I made a huge mistake, but then there's so many wonderful things that happen too. So it's just all part of the process.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And hearing you talk about giant cockroaches, it's not all this dream lifestyle. We were saying before we hit record, everybody thinks, oh my God, you're a digital nomad. That's so cool. It must be amazing resort life. It's just not always like that, is it?
It's not. I mean, I'm someone that wants to do this for a long time and has. So I need to really watch my money, when I'm traveling. Yeah. And so I have shared rooms with cockroaches, lizards, spiders, all kinds of stuff. And it gets to a point where it's not my first choice, but as long as they don't bite me and crawl on me and they don't well, I really don't like cockroaches. So I when I would you believe it? There and the youth hostel I stayed in Easter Island had even bigger cockroaches. And
Oh my gosh.
I really don't like roaches. So I just
Yeah.
said to the ones in Corcovado National Park, I said, if you don't bother me, I won't kill you. You go do your thing.
Yeah.
I'll go do me. So that worked out. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
also, now that I've spent so much time in nature, like I got marooned in New Zealand for 2 years during the pandemic.
Oh my
So
gosh.
and that
Wow.
was like a lot of nature. And I'm like, you know what? This earth belongs to them too. And I feel like I don't want to kill things. I would rather
Yeah.
put them outside or whatever. The only exception to that is mosquitoes. Like but basically I try not to kill anything if I can help it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Mosquitoes have to go. But I hear you. That's so cool. And it's another mindset shift too, I guess, that you're talking about. It's like, okay, I'm going to live with nature, not against it, because
Yeah,
this lifestyle I've chosen is going to put me in situations like that.
exactly.
It makes me think of this retreat I was on in Costa Rica, and there were scorpions, and one of the people there actually didn't freak out. I was freaking out when I heard there was a scorpion, but she just put a jar over the scorpion and just let it, be. And then when it calmed down, eventually, I think she took it outside and just let it go, So
Yeah.
it reminds me of that mindset, just be one with where you are. And the acceptance is important sometimes. Yeah.
I remember like one night in New Zealand, there was I don't know if you ever heard of a weta.
Oh, what is that?
It's kind of like a cricket, but not exactly. It's specific to them. And I don't know how to tell you this. It was really weird. Like I'm like, you shouldn't be in here because you need to eat and all your food is outside. And I tried really hard to do the thing where you like put like it was on the curtain, right? So I'm like trying to get this plastic container over it so I can somehow maneuver it. And
Yeah.
it had this like giant head and these eyes. Like, I mean, it was not
Oof.
as big as I remember in my mind, but in a creature that's like that big, it just was a big head. And it was, the eyes were looking at me and I could just feel it like, go away, go away. I just was like, I'm trying to help you. Okay. So,
Oh my gosh.
So I just left it and I put some lettuce out for it, which it didn't eat. And I just like, all right, I'm just going to bed. You do you. And
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm going to have to go Google weta now, New Zealand, and see what that is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I have loved this conversation. It's so helpful. And I think it's just going to help a lot of people realize some ways they can shift the way they're thinking about things to help them be successful if they want to be.
Yes.
And could you talk a little bit about your business and how you help people, how people can work with you if they want to hire a traveling coach to help them? What is that process like? Yeah.
So, there's really a lot of ways that I can work with people. So for the ones that are future travelers, they're looking at doing this in the future, not doing it yet. As I mentioned, those are the people that typically they're going to be in like corporate and maybe they like their job and they want to work remotely. Maybe they want to break a sabbatical, whatever. And I can help them address all of those core points, the mindset, the money, and the mastery. Or some people kind of are like, oh, I don't need mindset help. I'm ready to go. I just need to figure out how to plan this out financially and what am I doing with the logistical stuff. So I work with people where they are. So I would develop a program very specific to where they're at and what they need. And then my clients that are now the current travelers that have hit that wall, I call it kind of like a travel recalibration. So for them, it's, if you're doing therapy as well, I think everyone has a specific set of needs. And again, like whether I work with people sort of as we can do per session, like one session, one and done. I also offer packages for people that really need to dig a bit deeper and address some of the deeper aspects of what's happening so that they can move forward. And whichever kind of client you are, I always start with a complimentary, consultation because I want to make sure that one, I can help you because I don't know what your needs are. I actually was just contacted by someone who, has a daughter that's going to start solo traveling and, might want some safety tips, which is another thing I can help with, right? Especially for women and solo travelers. That's another area I'm happy to talk to people on. So, something like that might be one session, but regardless, I like to make sure I understand what you need, that I can help you, and also that we're a good fit. Because also sometimes maybe I have the information you need, but maybe we just don't get along, or whatever. Or I'm not your cup of tea and whatever. So that's why I just like to have a complimentary session and just make sure that we're kind of on the same track and that it works.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome. And your website is www.fulltimetravelcoach.com. Right?
Yeah. So that's the homepage, and you should be able to find everything from there. But I also have from desk to destiny.com. It goes right to the travel, the booking, the complimentary session. So you can go there too.
Nice. And we'll put all this in the show notes for you guys if you want to check her out and schedule a complimentary appointment and see how she can help you. Definitely. Sounds like you have a lot of really great tools, especially for people that are stuck or not sure how to get going with it. So I think that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, and I hope that this conversation has either inspired someone, or if you need help out there, then you know that there's someone out there that can help you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Heather. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you loved this episode, please leave a review.